We all feel that education should usher in an element of critical inquiry. That's a basis of education. But this bill intends to douse that facet of education. They don't want any inquiry. Leave apart critical inquiry. You know, I have been part of the media discourse. So I happened to read an interview of Albert Einstein, which he gave to New York Times. In that interview, he says so. You know, Einstein was one person who escaped from Germany when Hitler was on his ascent. So in his interview to New York Times, he says that the Germany under Hitler was gripped in something called psychic distemper. Psychic distemper. The translation, Professor Gopinath, would be some sort of a mental illness, right? That means Germany was in the grip of a psychic distemper, which of course we can also see the shades of it in our country too. The reason for Germany plunging into this psychic distemper was precisely because the academic community caved in. The academic community caved in. The students, teachers, professors were supposed to inculcate a certain level of resistance, perusal, inquiry. They all caved in. If the academic community were to be vigilant, guarded, and had guided the people in a trajectory of much more critical analysis, the psychic distemper wouldn't have gripped Germany. Do you intend to take a cue out of it? This is precisely that is happening in India. The present government doesn't want to have any form of inquiry at all. I always used to harp on the fact that I had the fortune or opportunity to be a student of JNU. Nowadays in Parliament, I always tell that if I say I was a student in JNU, you will say that you are part of an anti-national university. That's what is the nomenclature, the adjective that is attached to JNU. I even told the minister, I am from JNU. For you, it's an anti-national university. I recollect those days when we had debates on anything and everything. The Ganga Daba, all those dabas which JNU campus used to have. Even now they have daba, but it's more or less dead chapters. We used to discuss about anything and everything under the sun, where it is Libya, where it is Ethiopia, where it is Kashmir. But now, you need to be cautious about the topic which you need to take up for even informal discussions. Leave apart the formal seminars. The Palestinian ambassador was complaining to me saying that he was invited for a discourse on the Palestine issue in JNU. Last minute, the JNU administration cancelled that. An ambassador who is acknowledged, recognized by the Foreign Affairs Department, the government of India, is not at liberty to address the students of a university. We don't need to be mature enough to listen a particular shade of opinion. So see how the higher education has transformed in those years. So this very piece of legislation is targeted as a weapon to make sure that even if there is some remains or reminiscence of a critical evaluation, that also need to be dealt with. Since this is what I speak on the floor of the parliament. I don't have any hesitation in speaking. I know that this is a formal function, but as a member of parliament, you expect me to, give my opinion. That's why I'm saying it. I hope the higher education secretary doesn't have a problem with that. You don't have anything. She's not, she's closing her ears now. You have a stint in Delhi also now? It's over? You can still go to. So you should always say that you never listen to the speech of John Brittas when you go there. Now, 42nd Amendment, when it all started, see, the framers of the Constitution was very clear. Education need to be a state subject. Such a rich, diverse country. It has to have the cultural ecosystem of that particular state. It shouldn't be taken out of that cultural space in which the education need to be. You can't take out one vertical from that ambience. 42nd Amendment. As you all know, during emergency, education was taken out of the state list and put in concurrent list. The whole plethora of decisions and legislations, guidelines which you have come through have this epistemological break that happened in the Indian Constitution by taking out education and putting it in concurrent list. No, you had we still have a raging battle with so-called authorities who should manage the universities. Dr. Gobinath is a victim of that. I'm sure about it. You all, I sympathize. I have empathy. The very universities which have been built by the sweat and blood of our people, no, you have absolutely no control over that. The virtual takeover of the higher education. Now, UGC, I recollect the Supreme Court deliberations on this particular issue. I'm sure Dr. Gobinath must have studied about that. It all happened very recently. We all thought that UGC was an organization to guide the higher education rather than to preside over it. See, an organization which was formed for to guide, to give suggestions. There were 2-3 pillars of UGC, I remember that. That was what was being talked about. Now, what was that case, Dr. Gominda? That case which appended all those things, that was Gadvi versus State of Gujarat. That was in 2016 or something like that. Gadvi versus. Suddenly, Supreme Court says that, see, there is a clause in Indian Constitution that is repugnancy. You know what is repugnancy? Anybody who has got a legal blunt here? Can you say? Anybody? Nobody has a legal background here. They're all science, humanities. Dr. Lal, you anger so many programs which have got legal implications. You don't know what is repugnancy? There is a clause in repugnancy which says that, suppose in concurrent list, if a law passed by a state government clashes with a central legislation, then the legislation passed by the parliament will supersede, right? But what has happened? Even a guidelines issued by the UGC was termed as having superiority over a statute passed by a state assembly. See how it was interpreted. I can understand that a state act and a central act clashes and central act prevails. But an organization which doles out a press release, even the content of the press release needs to have supremacy over a state statute. That was how the Supreme Court interpreted the UGC Act. along with Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, we also passed a piece of legislation saying that the governor, who has got humongous obligations and duties as a constitutional head of the state, shouldn't be burdened with administrative aspects of a university. That was the narrative. That bill is yet to see the light of the day. Now, somebody may ask, why all of a sudden you have brought in a piece of legislation? Somebody may have a doubt about it. Punji Commission, which was appointed to look into the functioning of center-state relations, Sarkariya Commission, Venkatadaliya Commission, three important commissions, national commissions, and out of that, Punji, who was the Chief Justice of Supreme Court, he categorically said that the governor should be taken out of all these routine administrative duties, like being a chancellor of a university. And now you'll be surprised, there was a bill brought by none other than Shri Narendra Modi in 2013 in Gujarat. Gujarat Assembly, he passed a bill. You know what was that? Gujarat Universities Amendment. What was that? Anybody has an idea? What was that? What was the content of the Gujarat Universities Amendment Bill 2013? Anybody has a guess? Excuse me? Exactly. Who has done it? None other than the Prime Minister, who was then the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Till the NDA came to power, this was kept in the back burner. 2015, the governor gave assent to that bill. That became an act, statute. So a piece of legislation which reached its logical conclusion, that too passed by the inverted comma model state of Gujarat. When I put inverted comma, be very clear about it. You cannot pass a similar bill in your assembly. Don't you think it's discrimination that is happening? The same piece of legislation, nothing, no change anywhere, not even a comma. This is why I say that along with the tweaking of the federal structure, there is an element of political vendetta and discrimination that is seen in the area of education.